The grand chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy as thousands of species representatives shifted uncomfortably in their gravity-adjusted seats. High Commander Raxos stood at the central podium, his crystalline exoskeleton catching the light from the 12 artificial suns that illuminated the vast space. The usual protocols and ceremonies had been completely abandoned for this emergency session. "Representatives of the Galactic Council," Raxos's voice boomed through the neural translators, his 4 hands gripping the podium tightly. "What I am about to share will change everything we thought we knew about primitive species classification." Captain Nyxar watched from his designated observation post, his retinal sensors recording every moment of this historic session. As the leading xenoanthropologist of the Outer Rim Survey Fleet, he knew whatever had rattled the unshakable High Commander must be unprecedented. 3 solar cycles ago, Raxos continued, his voice trembling slightly, we discovered a Level 2 civilization in the backwater spiral arm of Galaxy Section 7249. These beings call themselves humans. A wave of dismissive clicks and whistles swept through the chamber. Level 2 civilizations were barely worth noting, having just mastered basic space travel within their own solar system. They were considered about as threatening as a Zorblax infant learning to walk. "Silence!" Raxos slammed all 4 hands down, creating a thunderous boom that echoed through the chamber. What makes these humans different is not their technology. It's their creativity when it comes to dealing death. The chamber grew so quiet that Nyxar could hear the gentle hum of the artificial gravity generators. He leaned forward, his sensory tentacles extending with interest. "We followed standard protocols for studying pre-contact species," Raxos said, activating a holographic display. "But our stealth observers began disappearing, not just going dark, vanishing completely. These humans, with their primitive technology, somehow detected our quantum-cloaked ships and developed countermeasures within days." Council member Vextra, her gaseous form swirling with agitation, spoke up. "Impossible. Their detection systems are based on radio waves and basic electromagnetic scanning." "Exactly," Raxos replied, his exoskeleton taking on a darker hue of distress. "They adapted their primitive tools in ways we never imagined possible. They turned their entire planet's entertainment broadcasting network into an early warning system. They weaponized their planet's magnetic field. And that's just the beginning." Nyxar felt his primary heart skip a beat. He had studied thousands of species, but never had he heard of such rapid adaptation. His research sensors were recording at maximum capacity now. "The humans have a saying," Raxos continued, his translator struggling to convey the proper tone. "Give them a stick, and they'll figure out 47 ways to kill you with it. I've seen them turn cleaning supplies into explosives, navigation equipment into weapons. They transformed a simple waste disposal unit into something they called a, and I quote, really big gun." The chamber erupted in nervous chatter. Nyxar watched as various species displayed their cultural signs of distress. The methane breathers released anxiety pheromones, the Silicon Collective began rapid crystal formation, and the hive networks buzzed at frequencies that made his sensors ache. "But the most disturbing thing," Raxos said, lowering his voice to barely above a whisper, forcing everyone to lean in, "is that they're enjoying this. Every time we think we've countered their latest innovation, they laugh. They make jokes. They turn their victories into something called memes and spread them across their primitive digital network. They're not just surviving, they're having fun." Nyxar felt a chill run through his neural pathways. In all his years of study, he had never encountered a species that found joy in the art of warfare. This was something new, something terrifying. Nyxar quote as personal log recording continued to flash in his neural implant as he recounted the events that led to this disaster. 6 cycles earlier, his research vessel, the Silent Observer, had been tasked with the routine cataloging of potentially sentient species in the Outer Rim. Earth wasn't even supposed to be their primary target. "Begin playback personal log entry 47293, Nyxar commanded his ship's AI. "Date stamp, first contact with species designation, human." The holographic display shimmered to life, showing Earth hanging like a blue and white jewel against the backdrop of space. Nixar's voice from the recording carried notes of excitement that now seemed painfully naive. The humans have achieved nuclear fission, basic space travel, and have begun establishing a presence on their singular moon. Standard protocol suggests minimal risk for observation. Their detection capabilities are limited to radio waves and primitive optical telescopes. Our quantum cloak should be more than sufficient. Nixar paused the playback, his sensory tentacles curling in embarrassment. How wrong they had been. The recording resumed. Initial observation points to fascinating behavioral patterns. They operate in a strange mix of cooperation and competition. Their global communication network, while primitive, shows remarkable efficiency in information sharing. Note to self: pay special attention to their entertainment broadcasts. The humans seem to spend an inordinate amount of time creating fictional scenarios about first contact with alien species. A bitter laugh escaped Nixar's breathing apparatus. Those fiction broadcasts should have been their first warning. The humans had spent centuries imagining every possible way an alien encounter could go wrong, and had planned accordingly. The log continued. Day 7 of observation. Something unusual has occurred. Our quantum cloak is functioning perfectly, yet several human communication channels are discussing possible anomalies in their night sky. Researcher Krell suggests they're merely detecting standard background radiation, maintaining current observation protocols. Nixar remembered that day clearly. That was when they first encountered Madison Chen, though they didn't know her name yet. The recording showed a human female standing on the roof of a research facility, pointing what looked like a primitive handheld device at their cloaked ship. Day 8. The anomaly discussions have increased. Human scientists are proposing theories about gravitational lensing effects that shouldn't be possible with their current technology. Lead researcher designate, Chen M., has published a paper suggesting new methods of detecting spatial distortions caused by advanced cloaking technology. How did they make that leap? The recording flickered as it showed multiple news broadcasts. Madison Chen's face appeared on several of them, her expression intense as she explained her theories. Look at the stars, she was saying. They're moving in ways they shouldn't. Something's up there watching us. Day 15. Situation critical. Multiple human detection systems are now pointed at our location. They've somehow modified their weather satellites to detect our engine's heat signature. Researcher Krell insists we maintain protocol, but... The recording cut to chaos. Warning signals blared as the silent observer's sensors detected incoming projectiles. Primitive nuclear missiles. But the humans had launched them in a pattern that made evasion impossible without dropping their cloak. Emergency protocol initiated, Nixar's panicked voice echoed in the recording. Multiple detonations detected, cloak failing. Direct communication may be our only... Wait, they're not trying to destroy us. They're creating an electromagnetic pulse web. They're trying to trap us. The recording showed Madison Chen again, now speaking from what appeared to be a military command center. To the alien vessel in Earth orbit, she announced, her voice calm but carrying an edge of steel. We know you're there. We know you've been watching. You have two options. Reveal yourselves and establish peaceful contact, or we'll be forced to demonstrate why humanity has survived every extinction-level event our planet has thrown at us. Analysis suggests minimal threat capability. Researcher Krell's voice cut through the chaos. Their weapons are primitive. We should maintain observation protocols. That's when everything went wrong. The humans, anticipating their non-response, initiated what they called Project Spotlight. They detonated a precisely calculated series of nuclear devices in the upper atmosphere, creating an expanding field of radiation that would force any cloaked ship to either reveal itself or risk complete systems failure. The humans had turned their entire planet's nuclear defense network into an alien detection system. They had transformed their fear of mutual destruction into a tool for forcing first contact. And they did it all with technology that should have been generations away from such capabilities. Emergency protocol failed. Nixar's recorded voice was shaking. Cloak compromised. Multiple human military vessels approaching lunar orbit. They've adapted their primitive chemical rockets with... Are those modified mass drivers? How did they... Incoming transmission. Madison Chen's face filled the screen one final time. "Welcome to Earth," she said, a slight smile playing at her lips. "Now let's talk about all those horror movies you thought we wouldn't notice you downloading from our networks. Turns out they weren't just entertainment. They were humanity's way of preparing for this exact moment. Shall we begin diplomatic relations? Or would you prefer to see how many of our fictional worst-case scenarios we've turned into viable defense strategies?" The recording ended, leaving Nixar staring at his reflection in the darkened display. That was the moment they should have realized. Humans hadn't developed all those fictional invasion scenarios for entertainment. They had been planning, preparing, and theorizing about this moment for generations. Every piece of fiction, every movie, every story had been a thought experiment in survival. And now, as Nixar prepared to share his findings with the Galactic Council, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The humans weren't just ready for first contact. They had been eagerly waiting for it, with countless plans already in place for every possible scenario. "Tactical update," Nixar announced to the Galactic Council, his voice resonating through the chamber. "The humans have exceeded all predicted response patterns. They are not merely defending, they are hunting us." The holographic display showed a series of human vessels, cobbled together from their primitive spacecraft and enhanced with reversed-engineered technology from 2 captured scout ships. They moved through space with a predator's grace, tracking quantum signatures that should have been impossible to detect. Lieutenant Blake Torres, Nixar brought up an image of a dark-skinned human male, his expression focused as he stood before a tactical display. Former underwater vessel commander. He adapted human submarine hunting techniques to space warfare. The humans call it the Silent Service. The recording showed Torres in action, directing a fleet of modified vessels. "Listen to the void," Torres was saying to his crew. "Space isn't empty. It's an ocean of radiation, particles, and disturbances. Every ship, no matter how advanced, leaves ripples. We've spent centuries learning to hunt in the depths of our oceans. Space isn't so different." Nixar's sensory tentacles curled as he remembered the first time Torres's tactics had claimed one of their advanced warships. The human vessels had powered down everything except passive sensors, drifting in the shadow of their moon. They tracked the quantum wake of the galactic patrol ship, just as their submarines once tracked underwater vessels through temperature changes and water displacement. "The impossible part," Nixar continued, "wasn't that they could detect our ships. It was how quickly they learned to predict our movements. They called it pattern recognition. Apparently, they'd been practicing it in something called video games for centuries." The display shifted to show a devastating battle near the asteroid belt. 3 of the most advanced ships in the galactic fleet, cornered by what should have been primitive human vessels. Torres's voice crackled through an intercepted transmission. "You're thinking in 3 dimensions," he was saying to his fleet. "They're thinking in 3 dimensions. But we've got centuries of submarine warfare doctrine that says there's no up or down in combat. We've got generations of space combat simulators that trained us for this exact scenario. Execute attack pattern Sierra 7. The human ships moved in ways that defied conventional space combat doctrine. They used asteroids as cover, anticipating quantum jump points before the galactic ships could use them. They turned their ship's exhaust into weapons, superheating space debris into clouds of projectiles. "We attempted to neutralize their command structure," Nixar reported, his secondary heart still racing at the memory. "A precision strike at their lunar base, an operation that should have ended this uprising before it truly began." The holographic display showed the attack in vivid detail. 12 quantum-capable warships, appearing simultaneously around Earth's moon, weapons primed. It should have been overwhelming. It should have been decisive, and instead Torres was ready. His vessels emerged from hiding spots that the galactic sensors hadn't even known to look for. They'd hollowed out asteroids, turning them into mobile bases. They'd masked their ships' signatures by mimicking natural space phenomena, skills learned from centuries of hiding submarines under thermal layers and behind underwater mountains. "Sending ships against the Silent Service is like throwing rocks at shadows," Nixar quoted from an intercepted human transmission. "Good luck finding us before we find you." The council chamber was deathly quiet as they watched the battle unfold. Torres's fleet struck from multiple vectors, using maneuvers that violated every principle of space combat. They deliberately sent ships into danger zones, using their own vessels as bait to draw out galactic ships from defensive formations. They sacrifice ships willingly, Nixar explained, his confusion evident. They call it calculated loss. Their commanders understand something we don't, that losing a ship to gain a tactical advantage isn't a failure, it's a strategic victory. The recording showed Torres standing over a tactical display, directing his fleet with the confidence of a born hunter. They think their technology makes them superior, he was saying to his officers. But humanity spent centuries preparing for this. Every space battle in every movie, every video game, every book, it was all training. We've fought this war 1,000,000 times in our heads. Now we just need to make it real. The failed neutralization attempt had cost the Galactic Fleet 8 advanced warships. The humans lost 27 vessels but considered it a tremendous victory. They celebrated with something called a party, their crews sharing drinks and telling stories about the battle as if it had been some kind of entertainment. What terrifies me most, Nixar concluded, his voice dropping to a near whisper, is that they're still learning. Every engagement teaches them more about our technology, our tactics, our weaknesses. They adapt faster than any species we've encountered, and worst of all, they're enjoying themselves. The final image showed Torres and Madison Chen in a strategic meeting, both laughing as they planned their next operation. Who knew all those hours playing Stellar Conquest would actually pay off? Torres was saying. Makes me wish I could tell my mom that video games would help save humanity. The humans have a saying, Nixar added, his translator struggling to convey the full meaning. Practice makes perfect. We're discovering that they've been practicing for this moment their entire existence. Every piece of entertainment, every game, every story about space combat. It was all preparation. And now, they're not just surviving our attacks, they're turning them into training exercises for future encounters. The chamber filled with nervous murmurs as the council members began to understand the full implications. The humans weren't just fighting back. They were treating this conflict as the ultimate test of centuries of theoretical preparation. Every defeat taught them new lessons. Every victory confirmed another theory from their fiction. Nixar, S report to the council continued, his usual professional demeanor cracking under the weight of recent memories. The holographic display showed Madison Chen standing in what the humans called their reverse engineering lab, a massive facility that had once been a place called Area 51. They didn't just study our technology, Nixar explained, his voice trembling. They transformed it. Dr. Chen discovered ways to use our quantum drives that we never considered possible. She said something that haunts me still. Why follow the rules of physics when you can bend them? The display showed human engineers swarming over captured alien vessels like insects, but their work was anything but chaotic. Madison Chen moved among them, directing their efforts with precision that bordered on prescience. Take a look at their power distribution, she was saying in the recording, pointing to various components. They're thinking linearly. But what if we route it through a Mobius configuration? Their safety protocols are holding them back. Good thing humans never met a safety protocol we couldn't override. Nixar's tentacles writhed as he remembered what happened next. The humans have this concept called thinking outside the box. We thought it was just a phrase. We were wrong. The holographic display shifted to show the first human counterattack using their modified alien technology. Chen had taken their quantum drives and reconfigured them to create what she called probability bombs. Weapons that didn't just destroy their targets, they erased all possible quantum states of their existence. Safety protocols disengaged, Chen's voice echoed through the recording. Initiating quantum cascade. Let's show them why humans were never meant to have this technology. We do the craziest things with it. The footage showed 3 galactic warships simply ceasing to exist. Not exploding, not breaking apart. Just vanishing, along with every quantum possibility of their existence. The humans had turned advanced propulsion technology into a weapon that broke the laws of physics themselves. The terror among my crew was palpable, Nixar continued, his skin changing color with the memory. We had given them technology centuries beyond their development level, thinking they couldn't possibly understand it well enough to be dangerous. Instead, they understood it so well they found ways to use it that we had never dreamed possible. The display showed Madison Chen in her command center, surrounded by holographic displays stolen from alien technology, but modified with human interfaces. The aliens think linearly, she explained to her team. They developed this technology step by step over centuries. But humans? We jump straight to what if and work backwards from there. Nixar's recording shifted to show the aftermath of another battle. Human ships, now equipped with hybrid technology that merged their primitive but robust engineering with advanced alien systems. They shouldn't have worked. They violated dozens of engineering principles. But the humans had done something unprecedented. They had made their technological ignorance work for them. They called it garage engineering, Nixar explained to the horrified council, taking advanced technology and modifying it with primitive tools and materials. We thought it would make the technology less effective. Instead, it made it unpredictable, dangerous, impossible to counter because it didn't follow any known scientific principles. The footage showed human engineers celebrating after successfully merging a quantum reactor with what they called a NASCAR engine. The hybrid power system was crude, unsafe, and horrifyingly effective. When one council member asked why they would take such risks, Nixar played Chen's response from an intercepted transmission. Aliens developed their technology safely, methodically, following all the rules, she said, grinning as her hybrid ship engine roared to life. Humans? We throw the rulebook out the window and ask, what's the worst that could happen? Then we do it anyway just to see if we can. More footage played, showing human ships performing maneuvers that should have torn them apart. They had reinforced alien hulls with primitive steel, creating vessels that were somehow more durable than pure advanced technology. They had jury-rigged quantum sensors to work with old radio telescopes, creating detection systems that worked on principles no other species had considered. The turning point wasn't just their technological adaptation, Nixar concluded, his voice heavy with revelation. It was their complete disregard for what should and shouldn't be possible. They didn't know enough about advanced physics to know what they were doing was impossible, so they did it anyway. The final footage showed Madison Chen addressing her engineering team after another successful modification of alien tech. They gave us the keys to the universe, she said, holding up a quantum circuit board that had been modified with what appeared to be primitive copper wiring and silver solder. But they forgot that humans have a bad habit of hot wiring anything with an engine. Let's show them why you should never give advanced technology to a species that still thinks duct tape is a legitimate repair tool. The council chamber had grown deathly quiet. The implications were staggering. Every piece of technology captured by the humans wasn't just being studied. It was being transformed into something new, something unpredictable, something that worked in ways that defied conventional understanding. We are no longer dealing with a primitive species learning to use advanced technology, Nixar concluded. We are facing a species that takes advanced technology and makes it more dangerous through their primitive understanding. They don't just adapt, they transform. And they do it with a speed and creativity that makes them more terrifying than any advanced civilization we've ever encountered. The holographic display in the council chamber shifted to the massive form of Jupiter, its swirling storms providing a backdrop for what would become the most devastating battle in galactic history. Nixar's voice cracked as he began this part of his report. We thought we had the perfect strategy, he said. A massive fleet positioned behind Jupiter's largest moon. 300 of our most advanced warships ready to launch a simultaneous attack that would overwhelm Earth's defenses. And then the humans showed us what psychological warfare truly means. The recording showed the human fleet approaching, but something was wrong. Each ship was broadcasting on all frequencies, playing what the humans called music. The same song from every ship, growing louder as they approached. The final countdown, Nixar explained, his translator struggling with the concept. A human battle hymn about space warfare and victory. They knew our neural networks would be processing all frequencies. They wanted us to hear it, wanted it to burrow into our consciousness. Lieutenant Torres's voice cut through the music, broadcasting on all channels. You know what humans love more than anything? A good underdog story. And thanks for casting us in the role of plucky heroes fighting against an overwhelming alien force. We literally have thousands of movies about how this ends for you. The human fleet was massively outnumbered, but they moved with absolute confidence. Madison Chen's voice joined the broadcast. Did you analyze our entertainment broadcasts like we knew you would? Then you know humans have an annoying habit of winning against impossible odds. We call it the triumph of the human spirit. You're about to call it a nightmare. The battle began, and Nixar's recording showed the true horror of facing humanity at its most creative. The humans had positioned automated drones throughout Jupiter's system, hidden in the rings of debris. But these weren't ordinary weapons platforms. They turned our own transmissions into weapons, Nixar explained, his skin paling at the memory. Every scan we made, every communication we sent was caught and amplified back at us through their drone network. They created a feedback loop that turned our own sensor networks against us. The footage showed galactic ships firing blindly, their targeting systems overwhelmed by the cascade of false returns. Meanwhile, human vessels executed perfectly coordinated attacks, guided by what they called intuition and gut feeling rather than relying solely on technology. Remember those submarine tactics? Torres's voice taunted through the chaos. Works even better in space when we can use a gas giant's magnetic field to hide our signatures. Thanks for those detailed scans of Jupiter, by the way. Really helped us plan this out. The human ships struck from multiple vectors, using Jupiter's gravity to slingshot their vessels at speeds that should have torn them apart. They had modified their hybrid drives to absorb the gravitational stress, another innovation that defied conventional physics. Madison Chen's flagship led a particularly devastating attack run. You know what's funny? Her transmission cut through the battle noise. We spent centuries imagining how we'd fight aliens. Every scenario, every possible strategy. You spent centuries advancing your technology. But you never once stopped to ask, what if the primitives are better at warfare simply because they never stopped practicing it? Nixar's own final desperate gambit played out on the holographic display. He had ordered his remaining ships to execute a forbidden maneuver, creating a quantum fissure that would trap the human fleet in a temporal dead zone. It was a tactic that violated multiple galactic conventions. We broke our own laws of warfare, Nixar admitted to the council. And the humans? They laughed. They actually laughed. The recording showed why. The human fleet split into smaller groups, each one executing maneuvers that somehow turned the quantum fissure into a propulsion system. They had anticipated this tactic, prepared for it, planned how to counter it before it was even deployed. Thanks for the power boost. Chen's voice was filled with genuine amusement. We saw this in an old movie once, figured out how to surf quantum waves about 6 weeks ago. Want to see what happens when we redirect this energy back at your fleet? What followed was beyond devastating. The human ships, riding the quantum fissure like a wave, turned the fabric of space-time itself into a weapon. They didn't just defeat the galactic fleet. They turned its own desperate tactics into a victory that should have been scientifically impossible. The part that truly broke us, Nixar said, his voice barely a whisper, wasn't that they defeated us. It was that they turned the battle into something they called a training exercise. Each ship crew was competing for what they called achievement badges, treating the whole thing like one of their video games. The final moments of the battle played out. Human ships, moving in perfect coordination, herding the remaining galactic vessels into a trap that had been laid before the battle even began. They had calculated every possible move, prepared for every strategy, and turned the entire Jupiter system into one giant kill box. Here's the thing about humans. Torres's final transmission echoed through the council chamber. We don't just want to win. We want to win with style. We want to win in a way that makes for a great story later. Because that story becomes training for the next generation. Every victory is just preparation for the next challenge. Madison Chen's voice provided the final blow. You thought our entertainment was just fiction. But humans? We turn fiction into reality. Every story, every game, every crazy idea, it's all just practice for moments like this. So, what do you say? Ready to talk about peaceful cooperation? Or should we show you some other tricks we learned from our science fiction? The recording ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. Nyxar's skin had taken on the deep blue shade of profound realization. What we discovered in that battle wasn't just humanity's capacity for warfare, he concluded. We discovered their true nature. They don't just adapt, they transform everything they touch. They don't just fight, they turn combat into art. They don't just survive, they thrive on challenges that would break other species. The final holographic image showed the human fleet in formation around Jupiter, their hybrid ships glowing with energy that shouldn't exist, their victory celebration broadcasts filling every frequency with music and laughter. And most terrifying of all, Nyxar said, they showed us that everything they'd created, every story, every game, every piece of entertainment we dismissed as primitive fiction, was actually a training program for their entire species. They spent their whole history preparing for a war they weren't even sure would come. And when it did, they were ready. More than ready. They were eager. Nyxar stood before the Galactic Council one final time, his report nearly complete. The chamber remained deathly quiet, the implications of humanity's victory still rippling through the assembled representatives. Based on these events, Nyxar announced, his voice stronger now, carrying the weight of hard-won wisdom, I propose an immediate categorization change for humanity. They are not a Level 2 civilization. They are something we have never encountered before. They require an entirely new classification. High Commander Raxos leaned forward. Explain. We classify civilizations based on their technological advancement, Nyxar continued. But humans proved this system is fundamentally flawed. They turned our advanced technology into something more dangerous, precisely because they lacked understanding. Their primitive perspective made them more lethal, not less. The holographic display showed scenes from the aftermath of the Jupiter battle. Human ships, now equipped with weapons that violated the laws of physics, patrolling their solar system. But instead of pressing their advantage, they had done something unexpected. They had sent a peace proposal. Madison Chen and Blake Torres now serve as humanity's representatives to the stars, Nyxar explained. Their message was clear. Humanity has no interest in conquest. They simply want to explore, to learn, to grow. But they included a warning that I believe should become galactic law. The recording played Chen's message. We love a good fight, but we prefer making friends. Leave us in peace, trade with us fairly, share knowledge freely, and you will find no better allies in the galaxy. But if you come seeking conquest... She smiled, that now familiar expression that mixed amusement with deadly promise. Well, you've seen what humans can do with just a few captured ships and our primitive technology. Want to find out what we can do as friends instead? Nyxar activated his final display, showing the proposed new galactic law regarding Earth. Humanity is to be classified as a protected anomaly. Their solar system is designated as a restricted zone, not because they are primitive, but because they are too dangerous to provoke and too valuable to lose. The council murmured as Nyxar continued. Any civilization seeking contact with Earth must first undergo a comprehensive review, not to protect the humans, but to protect themselves. Humanity should be approached with full transparency and absolute honesty. They respect strength but despise deception. They welcome friendship but punish betrayal. Lieutenant Torres's final transmission played across the chamber. You know what makes humans different? We spent our entire history fighting ourselves, preparing for enemies that didn't exist yet. Every war, every conflict taught us something new. We turned our violent past into a strength. Now we're ready to be better, to reach for the stars as friends. But we haven't forgotten how to fight. We never will. Nyxar's tentacles moved in what his species considered a gesture of profound respect. The humans have a saying. Those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Let us learn from this. They are not primitives playing with advanced technology. They are innovators who turn everything they touch into something new, something unexpected. The display showed human ships now patrolling their system, each one a unique hybrid of primitive and advanced technology. They had taken standard galactic designs and transformed them into something that reflected humanity's creative chaos. But here is the true warning, Nyxar said, his voice dropping to ensure every word carried weight. Humanity is still growing, still learning, still adapting. In the time since our conflict ended, they have already improved upon our technology in ways we never imagined possible. They take joy in innovation itself. The same spirit that makes them dangerous in war makes them brilliant in peace. Madison Chen's final report to the Galactic Council played, "We fought because we had to. We won because we spent centuries preparing through what you thought was just entertainment. Now let's see what humanity can do when we focus all that creativity on building something together. After all, every great science fiction story can't be about war, right?" Nyxar concluded his report with words that would be recorded in galactic history. Let it be known to all civilizations. Earth is not a primitive world to be conquered. It is not a developing species to be guided. It is humanity's crucible, where they forge themselves through centuries of imagination, conflict, and determination. They earned their place among the stars, not through gradual advancement, but through sheer, unstoppable human spirit. The council chamber fell silent as Nyxar delivered his final warning. Remember this day. Remember how a supposedly primitive species transformed our own technology into something we barely comprehend. Remember how they turned their centuries of conflict into strength, their fiction into reality, their dreams into weapons and tools alike. But most importantly, remember this. Humanity is still growing, still dreaming, still creating. And now they know they're not alone in the universe. He paused, letting his final words hang in the air. They call themselves the children of Earth. I call them what they truly are, the most wonderfully terrifying species in the galaxy. And they're just getting started.